RMJ movie reviews back again with a happy 4th of July movie review of a classic from my childhood entitled Bachelor Party, starring Mr. Tom Hanks himself. Some of you kids out there may not know that this is actually what Tom Hanks used to look like. So when I think of Tom Hanks, this in my mind is Tom Hanks. So kind of this older guy that you see on television now, who's kind of got gray hair and kind of the droopy cheeks. That's not Tom Hanks to me. That Bachelor Party, big, the Money Pit, Dragnet for some of you out there. That's Tom Hanks to me. Bachelor Party. Well, my childhood memories go way back with Bachelor Party. Like many of the 30-somethings and 40-somethings out there, this is a movie that, matter of fact, at the time I saw it, this was years before I kind of got into the liking girls and hormones and all of that. But I had older siblings who were kind of going through their puberty thing at the time. And like any other kid in the 80s who used to watch cable, we used to love movies like Bachelor Parties and Porky's and Revenge of the Nerds and Summer School to a lesser extent. That's not really a sex comedy. You would perceive it to be, but Summer School is like a good teenage angst kind of 80s movie. And I with Hard Bodies and I think Spring Break, that's a really obscure one. All those kind of movies from that time we used to love to watch. And I used to watch Bachelor Party. Actually, the first time I saw it was on the Channel 43 8 o'clock movie, which was WUAB Channel 43 8 o'clock movie, which Channel 43 WUAB was like a local kind of TV station in the Cleveland area back in Ohio. And I used to always watch Bachelor Party although that was the edited version, it was always just hysterical to me. And I had not seen, and then, excuse me, digressing, going back a little bit, that was the first time I had seen Bachelor Party. So that must have been sometime maybe in that late 80s, maybe 87, 88, 89, somewhere in there when I was kind of 6, 7, or 8. And I had actually rented it from the video store. And we all know, those of us who grew up on TV and all that kind of stuff back in the 80s, you could see movies like Bachelor Party on regular TV back then, But the kicker was when you rented it from the video store, you could see it uncut. So I finally got to see the original version of Bachelor Party. And, oh, man, I had not seen Bachelor Party. And I just bought this from Walmart. It was like in the bargain bin. And I think I was like at Walmart one night. I was actually like buying like some dish detergent. And I was buying like some soap for the washing machine and all that kind of stuff. And I just was browsing the DVD area. And I was like, Bachelor Party. I think it was like $3. And I was like, come on. Bachelor Party, $3. Why not? And I hadn't seen the film probably since... man, I don't think I had seen Bachelor Party since... oh my God! It had to have been maybe the last time I had seen it was probably when I was maybe about 11 or maybe 12. So it had been well over 20-something years since the last time I had seen it. And I hadn't seen it like on cable television. I might have missed it, but I hadn't seen it aired on anything within the last 20 years. I know it probably has been, but I hadn't caught it in a while. So watching it again was like a very big refresher to me. One of the funniest things to me is what I love about these movies from back then is how politically incorrect they were. It's so politically incorrect. And like, and of course there's like racist humor in it, but it's like, it's really funny because they actually have a behind the scenes vignette on this DVD. And when you look at all the people who created these movies, they were, middle-aged white guys who made these movies. You know what I mean? So when you look at the politically incorrectness, you look at the fact that it was the 80s, so there was probably a lot of drugs by the people who made it and probably some of the cast, and just the time period. You know what I mean? People were behind back then. You know what I mean? Because there's like a scene in the movie where they got like a pimp. And the pimp, of course, obviously, the first pimp you see has to be a big black man. Of course, it wouldn't be an 80s movie if the pimp wasn't a big, scary black man. Actually, the actor who's the pimp in this is actually the guy who was in Harlem Nights, who Eddie Murphy shot in the head as a kid. The one who was like, I should stick your ass. It was actually that actor. I don't know his name. And then the second guy who plays a pimp is actually an Indian man, and he kind of talks like an Indian, and I don't know, that kind of whole ignorant racist stuff. Which I will say about the movie, it's so ridiculous that you can't even be offended by it because everybody across the line in this movie is a doofus. Every character is a doofus. And I think for you guys who are younger, who didn't grow up on 30-something Tom Hanks, it'll be really fun for you guys who grew up on, the Da Vinci Code, and I can't remember what the sequel was called, Gods and Demons, whatever, and there's a third one coming out. But all of you who grew up on super serious Forrest Gump Tom Hanks, you guys should go back and take a look at his TV show, Bosom Buddies, and kind of this time period, because he was a comedic actor back then. And that's how I've always known Tom Hanks. So when he started doing the Forrest Gump stuff, and I was always a big fan of Big. I remember watching Big on the Showtime network all the time. My mother recorded that for me on VHS tape when I was a kid. But when Tom Hanks kind of started doing Forrest Gump in Philadelphia, it's like, Tom Hanks is getting serious on me now? But it's just, regardless to say, this is a very, very funny movie. And a lot of the jokes that were so funny back then to me as a kid are still funny now. Of course, I could... man, what are the funniest gags? I gotta go back a little bit. Saying that every character is a doofus. All these guys are dumb. Tom Hanks is an idiot. His boys are idiots. And I want to say his group of boys is Mr. Michael Dudikoff, American Ninja himself. And then there's the guy from House Party, the comedian. I don't know his name, but I think he's actually Hispanic. But he's supposed to be the guy who harasses a kid in House Party, one of the cops, who goes like, "You definitely look like a suspect. You definitely look black." He says that to Robin Harris, that guy. He was on a couple of Robert Townsend specials back in the day, but he kind of is taking on the John Belushi role from Animal House, kind of a really not so good imitation of him, but funny regardless. There's another actor who plays his brother, who's like a doctor, he's just crazy, man. And then there's like this kind of short white guy who's got big glasses and he's bald, and I think he works for like a Ticketron agency who gives tickets for concerts and stuff. And we all know those type of places don't exist anymore, but back in the 80s, I finally remember Ticketron and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't exist anymore, but they had that back then. They're all doofuses. Oh, and I also might say one of the boys from their crew is old boy from T.J. Hooker. I can't remember his name, but his name is on the front of the box. Goodness, what's his name? Adrian Zmed. Zmed, I think is how you pronounce his name. But he was on T.J. Hooker with William Shatner. He's in it. They're all great. They're all great. And also the actress who plays his wife, those of us might know, she actually committed a crime in real life. I don't know if she I can't remember. I don't know if she murdered somebody, but she was involved in some kind of domestic violence dispute. But apparently she is kind of doesn't have much. She either killed somebody or did some serious damage to somebody she was married to or dating. But yeah, she's got a mugshot. Look her up and you'll find it online. But she's a goofball character. It's just typical 80s fluff where you've got kind of the yuppies who play tennis and they've got their V-neck sweaters and their kind of white t-shirts and white pants and white tennis shoes, and they love to drink wine, and the mother, they sit uptight at a table, and it's typical 80s stuff. And let me tell you, one thing I was surprised at, the movie is actually longer than I remember. The movie is like an hour and 40 minutes, which is really long for this kind of thing. I think, The Hangover definitely owes a lot to Bachelor Party. The Hangover trilogy owes a lot to Bachelor Party. Although I'm not the biggest fan of the Hangover movies, they're all right. 1 is okay, 2 is okay. I never even saw 3, didn't want to, but I think they're okay. I don't think they're as funny as people make them out to be, but they're all right. I think this movie is much more funnier. But I was surprised that the Hangover movies, I think, are like 2 hours, or maybe an hour and 50, 55. But for 1984, 85, an hour and 40-minute raunchy comedy like this is a long movie, But another thing, I was actually surprised at how slow the movie takes to get going, because They actually don't make it to the bachelor party, I think, until well like 35 or it's almost really in 45 to 50 minutes into the movie once the bachelor party gets going. And man, once the bachelor party gets going, it's just nuts. It's nuts. I mean, you've got prostitutes dressed in leather. You've got prostitutes with electrical dildos that you plug into the walls. You got whips. You've got a little bit of racism here with Asian American men that they don't speak English and all of that. And Tom Hanks' fiance, they dress up like prostitutes and they end up going to the wrong room, and it's all these Asian men who supposedly ordered these prostitutes, and they're like, the Asian men are like in their like briefs and they're like chasing around like, oh. It's like so racist, but it's 1984-85, and this movie was made by a bunch of drug-induced, probably white guys, and I think the director might be a Middle Eastern man, Neil Israel. So I could be wrong. This could be like kind of Ganakam Globus type of guy. But there's that. You've got the scene where Tom Hanks and his boys want to play a good joke on his wife's cousin, because his wife's cousin is like a man-hating. Really, she's got pent-up sexual frustration. So she really hates Tom Hanks and all his boys because they're 30-somethings who are still acting like 19-year-olds. And they end up going to this male strip club. Of course, that's where all the guys have bow ties and hairy Tom Selleck Magnum P.I. chests and like these little Speedos on. And they meet this guy who's called Nick the Dick. And he goes, the dick, and then he pulls out his dick, and it's just, he puts his dick in a hot dog, but it is crazy, man. And the mom, like, Tom Hanks' mother-in-law ends up like, oh, man, that scene still, the Nick the Dick scene still gets me, man. When he goes, Nick the Dick, and he pulls it out, and they go like this, it's so hilarious. The other gag that has always got me in this movie is a donkey comes into the mix. They go get a donkey from a farm, and he got the stripper dancing with the donkey, and they've got drugs at this party, so the donkey ends up doing lines of cocaine, and he's eating the pills, and the donkey dies, and they gotta drag him. It's crazy, man. Still funny. You got a guy who sleeps with a transsexual, and he doesn't know it. Hysterical, hilarious. And of course, one of the top-notch funny scenes in this whole thing is there's Tom Hanks' fiance's ex-boyfriend wants to get back with her, so he's trying to kill Tom Hanks, ruin the bachelor party, do whatever he can to break him up. They end up bum rushing this guy, and they hang him out the window, and this gag killed me when I was a kid, and it killed me again when I rewatched it. I literally was dying watching this thing. They string my man out a window, and this couple was like, oh, this guy's trying to get his chick in the mood to sleep with her. He goes, it's a nice moon out tonight. He pulls the curtain back, and it's an ass in the window. It just killed me. They go out to the car. They open the sunroof, because this is like the 80s, guys. So sunroofs was like a big deal back then. Ooh, the sunroof. Ooh. The ass comes through the sunroof, literally planted on the chick and the dude's heads. Like, that nearly killed me. It nearly killed me. I was hurting laughing at that. It's so funny. This is just a ridiculous. This movie was made by guys my age who are giant man children. That's exactly who this movie was made by, and this is who it's made for. So if you come in the bachelor party with that frame of mind, put everything aside, you will have a long time. It is a tad slow in the beginning and a tad long. And on the side negative note, some of the 80s humor doesn't really work. I particularly say some of the stuff in the beginning of the movie kind of falls a little flat, because you got to remember, this is comedian Tom Hanks. So this is back in the days when Tom Hanks used to do a lot of this kind of stuff. When he used to do a lot of that in his movies back then. That was his shtick. So, some of that stuff doesn't really work. And if those of you who are younger aren't familiar with Tom Hanks when he was doing that stuff, you'll kind of be like, what the hell is he doing? But for those of us who grew up on Tom Hanks when he was young man Tom Hanks, we get it. I forgot he used to do all this stuff, and then it came back to me. I forgot Tom Hanks' whole little shtick with his head that he used to do back then. There's a couple gags, like I said, that don't really work in the beginning of the movie. Kind of the stuff with the parents. Some of it is okay, like Tom Hanks going Bond, James Bond. That kind of didn't. Some of it didn't work, and him chasing her around the room with the mixers, the manual mixers, which I don't even know if they even use those anymore. My mother used to have some of those. Kind of doesn't really work. We're gonna have potato salad, and he literally has baked potatoes on top of salad. Kind of doesn't really work. But again, they threw everything to the wall, and they just wanted to see if it would stick. This was a fun trip down memory lane. I had an absolute blast watching this movie again. It was fun to go back and kind of just relive my childhood and start to remember a lot of the jokes as I was watching the movie. And I just forgot how funny this movie is. It's ridiculous, man, boy, child fun. That's all it is. That's all it's worth. If you come into that with that mind frame, for those of us grown men, we will go back to when we used to watch these late at night with the TV down real low. So that's my review of Bachelor Party for the 4th of July. Thumbs up the video, subscribe to the channel, share the video, and leave comments down below, people, about Bachelor Party. When's the first time you saw it when you were a kid? What you kind of think of Tom Hanks, how he came from this to now he's doing the Da Vinci Code kind of stuff. Leave your comments down below about Bachelor Party. I'm going to be back with 2 more 4th of July movie reviews with 10 to Midnight, the sexy slasher thriller starring Charles Bronson. And then a special review of Revenge of the Nerds starring Mr. Anthony Goose E.R. Edwards and Robert Louis Carradine. RMJ Movie Reviews. I will see you guys soon.